Hello and welcome to part 5 of my video series Mastering Nakhmanson Gambit. In today's video I want to present you what I think is the strongest reply by Black against the Nakhmanson Gambit, and this is if Black declines the Gambit and plays the move Knight to d6. Actually this move isn't very well known, it's more like a sideline, but I believe that as soon as players will start to prepare against the Nakhmanson Gambit, this line will become the new main line. And I even saw the first videos, for example, a strong German international master known as the Big Greek on YouTube already made a video about the Nakhmanson Gambit, and he recommends this line for Black. And yeah, he's totally right. If Black plays accurate, then he will be up pawn and having a superior position. So truth must be told, this is the hardest test for us Nakhmanson Gambit players, and I don't want to lie. I think the best White can hope for is a draw in the end, but even here he needs to get lucky. But Black has to find some accurate moves himself, otherwise the favor could turn. So yeah, enough talk, I would say. Let's just jump right into the analyze. So without further ado, it's time to checkmate. So the reason behind Knight to d6 is that Black defends the pawn on f7, so our sacrifices with the bishop doesn't work anymore. And at the same time he's attacking our bishop on c4, and he's still attacking our knight on c3 with the pawn. So at a first glance this is an absolute logical move, and if I would be Black, then this is definitely the line I would go for. So if you're just here to look for a good counter line against the Nakhmanson Gambit, well, this is your video, definitely. And in this position, the most common move for White is rook to e1 check. But I actually don't want to recommend this move, because after bishop to e7, knight to d5, knight takes c4, knight takes e7, knight takes e7, queen to d4, attacking the knight and the pawn on g7 at the same time. So Black has to make a decision, and the best move for Black in this position is simply just castling, giving up the material, because after queen takes c4, d5 and queen to c3, well, it's a pretty sad position for White. I mean, come on, Black's up a pawn, his bishop can easily come to g4 or to f5, he will bolster his center by playing c6, and yeah, it's not clear where White has some compensation. It's actually a case that I don't believe White has any compensation, and this position is just simply better for Black. It has to be said that in this position, if Black gets greedy and plays the move d5, then it's suddenly White who's better, because after queen takes g7, rook to f8, we have the nice little tactic, bishop to h6 and winning the rook on f8, because after, let's say, bishop e6, queen takes f8, king to d7, queen takes queen, rook takes queen, and b3. Well, it's suddenly White who's just simply better. But yeah, if Black isn't greedy and just simply castles in this position, then we will have a pretty sad position, and this is why I don't really want to recommend the rook e1 line, even if it's the main line. I analyzed many variations here. I tried, for example, knight takes d4, but this just simply fails to knight takes c4. And if you want to know more about this variation, just check out my Niclas study. I will put the link down below in the video description. You can just simply check it out. It's all free. You will find the analysis of all videos in the Niclas study, and I also put in some tactics you can train who were actually played in online Niclas games. So just go there and check it out. It's all free. Anyway, after some analyze, I decided to go for the move queen to e2 check, and the reason is that Black has to find now some only moves to remain with an advantage. In this position, the only move that keeps the edge is bishop to e7. For example, after queen to e7, we just simply play queen to d3, threatening rook to e1, winning the queen. And an example line could go, for example, knight takes c4, queen takes c4, d6, knight to d5, because now the knight was hanging, because after rook to e1, black could play bishop e6, protecting the queen, so the queen was no longer hanging. Bishop e6, rook to e1, pinning the bishop, queen to d7, bishop to g5, stopping black from castling queenside, h6, and here comes a pretty nice move by white, and this is bishop to f6, because black cannot take the bishop with the g-pawn, because then you have the rook sacrifice on e6, and after f takes e6, knight takes f6, we're just simply winning the queen. And if black would just simply step aside with the king and play king to d8, well, you just simply retreat with your rook, and even if you're actually down 2 pawns, the position is much better already for white, because this one is hanging, this one is hanging, you can double up the rooks, threatening something like rook to e8 check. You're just simply much better, and it's not so easy for black to develop. I mean, his kings can no longer castle, his rooks are still in the corner, the bishop is still on f8. It's a pretty hard position for black, and believe it or not, white is already better. So if he cannot take the bishop, what can you play instead? Well, you could play bishop to e7, and here comes a forced line. Bishop takes e7, bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, knight takes e7, queen takes b7, castling, knight takes d4, rook a to b8, queen e4, rook f to e8, and b3. And yeah, this position is just simply equal. So queen e7 doesn't help black, and instead he really has to play the move bishop to e7. I mean, truth must be told, this is also the much more logical move, and I would highly doubt that you will gain queen to e7 too much in the game, but just want to show you that other moves aren't sufficient for black. So here we play the move knight to d5, because our knight was hanging. And here the only move for black to gain an edge is knight takes c4. Let's say black would castle, when you just simply go bishop to f4, and after, let's say, knight takes c4, then you could suddenly also play knight takes c7, after queen to e8, knight to queen to c4. We reach a position that's actually not that easy for black, because here the only move for black to stay in the game is e6, and after knight takes d4, bishop e6, knight takes c6, b takes c6, queen takes c6, bishop d5, because if you would take the queen with the queen, then you just simply can go check, and this is already better for white. So he has to do bishop takes d5, queen takes d5, and after rook to c8, bishop a5, bishop f6, queen d6, and queen a5, we reach a position where the first glance you may think, well, I'm up 2 pawns, pretty good job, white, but truth must be told, this position is just simply equal, because both pawns I marked will fall sooner or later because of black's pressure against his pawns. White will really lose 2 pawns, and then material is equal again, and yeah, I think that this position is just simply drawish. So another move in this position would be rook to e8, but here you just simply play queen to d3, and I find that this position is pretty pleasant for white, and the computer gives it already better for white, because it's not so easy for black to develop. I mean, how can you get these guys into the game, right? It's pretty tough, and white really got some active pieces. His rooks will join the attack. If you want to know more about this variation, just go and check out my Niclas study. I will put the link down below in the video description. Just check it out, it's all free. It's not for this video, because this would be just simply too much. Instead, I want to show you the better move by black, and this is knight takes c4. And here we play queen to take c4. And again, black has to make a choice, and the best move is castling. I mean, it's also logical. I mean, the king is still in the center, and you're already taught just try to castle as fast as you can, you know. But let's say black plays a move like d6, well, then suddenly white can already equalize by just simply grabbing the pawn on d4. And Now it's actually even too late for black to castle, because then you just simply can grab the knight and yeah, attacking the rook, so the rook has to move and you're winning another pawn, and this position is actually better for white. Even if black got the bishop pair, he got some problems with his pawns and we are up a pawn, so this is better for white. So in this position he should actually take the knight, and here we have the interesting move knight takes c7 check, king f8, knight takes a8, knight c6 and queen b5. And the best way to play this for black is actually to play knight to d4 and go for a perpetual of moves. He could also go for the move king to g8, and I covered this in my Niclas study, but in the end we reach a position that's quite drawish. So let's go back to the main lane. Main move for black is castling. And here you just simply grab the pawn on d4, and after black recaptured. The most common move in this position is actually c6. And here you can just simply grab the bishop on e7 and play bishop to f4. I just want to mention that it's probably worth some homework for you to think about bishop to d2 with the idea of bringing the bishop to c3 and then start bringing the rooks to the center. This could be also another interesting idea for white. I just simply focus on bishop to f4 with the idea of placing the bishop to d6. So the only move for black to remain with an advantage is playing d5. And here you have rook f to e1 and taking the queen, and after bishop to e6, rook to e3, with ideas of bringing the rook to g3, for example. At this point I will stop my analyze. Of course, black's up a pawn, and so he's better. But I think that white still got some drawing chances because of the opposite colored bishops, and he got some kind of compensation. It's pretty slight compensation, but of course, with the rook on the third file who could swing over to g3, the queen being pretty active, and the bishop, probably another rook can come to e1, putting more pressure on the e file. White got some compensation. It's not much. It's true, black is better, the truth must be told. But yeah, this is the best you could hope for. This position was actually reached in an online blitz game on Lichess by two players with over 2,300 rating points. And here black made a mistake and played the move c5. And white missed a nice tactic. He could easily just simply play queen takes d5, because black cannot recapture the queen, because then his own queen would be loose. So let's say queen to f6, queen to e5, queen takes queen, and rook takes queen. And this position would be actually pretty drawish with the opposite colored bishops. Material is equal. Probably white is even slightly better because his rook is a little bit more active, and black has to do something about the pawn on c5, but let's be honest, this position is actually pretty equal and pretty drawish. So yeah, this was my analysis about the knight to d6 line. I hope you liked it, I hope you learned something, and if you did, please let me know in the comments, and don't forget to hit the like and subscribe button. So see you next time, and it's again time to checkmate.